What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, spiritual hype man, and I'm going to make this one a rather short one, but it's just a point of perspective, and I think we all deal with this at some point. And I think, I don't want to say I think, I know, right? I know because I've been in these certain situations, but this one is of having the ability to have the tough, hard conversation with someone, right? And I think we've talked about this in being upfront with people. And this is just more of a reiteration to one, reflect on, is this something that I need to do? Is this something that I need to get better at? And what's a particular moment in my life right now that this particular thought or perspective can actually come into play, right? And that's being able to have a conversation with someone that doesn't see eye to eye in a particular situation, or that may be acting in a way that either makes you feel some sort of way, or makes that action makes someone else feel a certain way that you're connected to, or whether a group, etc. And so, again, in a macro sense, is being able to go and communicate with someone and let them know that you don't like something that they're either doing or that they're affecting in the certain situation in a way that that you can communicate and not negatively impact the rest of whether the relationship or the situation moving into your next outcome or situation. A good example was the conversation I had on the last episode when we were out in New Jersey and in New York and with my brothers, really figuring out a way in that instant to not be upset, not get angry, but figuring out a way to communicate how I'm feeling, what their actions are making me feel, and how I'm perceiving that in the same situation. Because we're in the same situation, but we have two different thought processes and two different ways of interpreting what's happening, right? And I feel like that's one of the most important things in order to become, in short, in order to become a better human being, right? In order to not be the person that flips out and all of a sudden there's like road rage and you get out and you're fist fighting or killing each other, etc. Right? I feel like in order to become a better person when it comes to filtering emotion and then communicating with others, I think it's important to practice how am I going to, state what I'm feeling, within the situation to another person that most likely will have an opposite thought or not see it in terms of how I'm seeing it. And again, you can also ask yourself, well, Wilson, how are you the one that sees it best, right? And and I think for that, like that's just truth for anybody. It's like how do we know that what we're seeing or what we're thinking or how we're perceiving it is the best? My only answer to that right now is just logics, right? If you can break things down to its most logical understanding of the situation and component and in essence goal, right? Like what is the goal of this moment and situation? Cool. So let's break this down logically in terms of what we should be doing or how we should be speaking to each other or acting on. Then let's figure out if, your perspective or my perspective is closer to that, or if there's a middle or if there's not a middle, right? But I feel like one thing that has always worked for me is being able to ask the person, hey, if you were in this position and this happened to you, how would you feel? And then what would you do different? Because then it takes them out of the whole concept of this is me, this is you, this is your perspective, this is mine. It's more of like, why don't you share my perspective for a second and I'll do the same with yours. So that's just a quick reminder on, having those tough conversations, but really being able to, with thyself, right, within yourself, figure out how can I have this conversation and practicing it. And obviously sometimes there's a little bit of nervousness because I've had, and I've said this before, I've had people say, hey, this is just between us, or like, I want to tell this to you because I feel comfortable sharing with you. And it's something about someone else or in a certain situation. However, some of my response to that is like, have you tried having that conversation or saying it the way you said it to me to the other person? And 9 out of 10 times it's a no, right? Which then leads to me thinking that it's almost like human nature. And I don't want to say nature. I think it's more of human construct of not wanting to have those types of conversations with an opposing thought or an opposing idea versus like, what we're used to, right, which is either yelling, screaming, and or not saying anything but holding a grudge, and then like indirectly acting on it towards the other individual or class of people, etc., fill in the blank. But I feel like, again, in order for us to progress as like a species, as yourself and as the person that you are within all your situations and the people that you're connected to, is really just understanding those things, right? Figuring out a way that you can speak your mind in these moments that are tough conversations to others in a way that's respectful and logical enough for them to understand your perspective at the bare minimum, right? So I'll leave you with that, something to reflect on. What's something, something like that you're maybe dealing with now, and then how do you go about communicating that? And again, just be very logical. I like to preempt people as well. If I'm going to have this conversation, hey, I just want to let you know, I'd like to discuss something with you that, it may upset you, or you may think of it differently than me, but I'd like to just share it with you because there's something that's bothering me or the way I'm feeling. But again, just remember it's out of respect for you and the situation and myself, something along those lines, like preempting the conversation so it doesn't go right into, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And then, one thing leads to another, and then we know how that goes. The shit show begins. So that's it. Hopefully you guys are having a great day. Keep crushing it. I will talk to you guys on the next one. I know this one's short. We got a couple more things coming up. We have a couple other guests. Gianna, a yogi, really big in the yoga realm. She's going to be on speaking about some of her perspectives, life, etc. So make sure you catch that one coming up this week, and we'll see you guys on the next one. And don't forget to share some of this and rate our podcast if you continue listening to it. Rating would be awesome as well, so we can get these points of perspectives shared with other people. Thanks, homies. Keep crushing it. Don't forget, nothing changes until you do. Peace.